Welcome to Little Victories, the self-help comedy podcast that proves success isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Hosted by fast-talking firecracker Richie DeFrisco and the ever-sly Pat the Cat Murray with the Pat Facts. This show celebrates big moves, small wins, and the drive that keeps high achievers going. Each week, they sit down with guests who aren't just surviving, they're thriving. Guests share the challenges they've faced, the victories they've earned, and the lessons that keep them leveling up. Because success means showing up, doing the work, and believing you can. This is Little Victories.
And welcome to Little Victories. This is my first independent podcast that I am, this is the, I can't remember the word that Pierre gave me, but inaugural episode. This is a very exciting day. This is, I've been waiting for this for a long time. Was confused about actually doing it, but was convinced by my very creative, intelligent group of friends that I love dearly that this was my avenue, so I feel like it has a lot of value. Just to give a breakdown of what Little Victories means, this is a podcast, it's a comedy, but it's also a motivational platform to give people the motivation to continue to go down the avenue of going after their passions, giving themselves credit, not putting themselves down, and essentially not being afraid to fail throughout their ventures, because you don't ever reach any level of success without being uncomfortable, without willing to fail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's the little wins. Essentially, to put everything in one piece, it's not the destination, and everyone has heard this before, but it's the journey. And even me, like, I struggle with this myself, still work with it every day, is to actually essentially just enjoy the journey. Each day that we wake up is a blessing. Sometimes we take that for granted, and when the sun rises, every day is a new day, and it's the little goals we give ourselves that get us to that sunshine, that beach, and everything else. My name is Richie DeFrisco. I am the host of my podcast. You can call me Dick. A lot of people call me Dick. I don't know why Richard means Dick. I got to look that up. I have no idea. And I'm a little dick. So today's episode, I have a phenomenal guest I'm very excited about, and I'll introduce him shortly. Today's topic is basically we're going to talk about education. And the reason why I chose this as the first episode, and it means a lot to me, and I'm going to get a little vulnerable here, is I had lost the love of my life. I'm a kid from the Bronx my entire life. Grew up in a single-parent household. My father deceased many, many years ago. He had died when I was 5. And my mother was my hero, always will be. We come from lower middle class, borderline poverty. This woman alone raised my sister and I, took us out of poverty. She struggled, and she basically went back to school when she realized that we were pretty fucked. And she said, okay, well, I have no choice. I have to raise these kids. And what she did was she would take us to school. She was a assistant para. She made shit money. And what she had done was she said, I got to go back to school. She went back to school, and this took 8 years, because you can't go full time. It was 8-9 years, because, through the course of those 8-9 years, she became a licensed teacher, a New York City school teacher. When she became a teacher, she would teach kids in the South Bronx how to read. Incredible woman, the love of my life. Tough Bronx woman, a heart of gold, but she didn't take shit from nobody. And I learned everything I could from her. So it means the world to me. And again, like as a kid, with her as my parent, going to school wasn't an option. She said flat out, you're going to fucking school. Me and my sister. I have 3 college degrees, master's NYU. I have associates from FIT in a photography program I recently graduated from during the pandemic, which I always wanted to go to art school, and I finally did. So education is something that, like, you don't have to. I'm not saying that it's something that you have to do. My nephew's being homeschooled. Me personally, I like school because if you could tell me I could sit in a classroom and learn from brilliant people in the subjects that I enjoy, I'd rather do that than go to work. I hate going to work. At work, my experience in work over, God knows how long has been like these environments are not always the greatest. Some are better than others. But essentially, it's like you got to be smart enough to actually get the work done, but dumb enough to follow the system as they're taking away more and more from you every year. Less vacation days, less this, less that, less benefits. We seem to be in a world where they just keep taking more away, and we just accept it. But I do personally, education does mean a lot to me. My mother, there's no words for that one. But before I go on any longer, I would like to introduce my guest that I'm very proud to introduce. His name is Patrick Murray. How you feeling?
How you doing, Richie? Thanks for having me. I'm all right.
So why are you my guest today? I want you to, now I know some, I didn't want to know too much before, in other words, we had a brief sit down, but I don't want to know, like when I sit my guest, I don't want to know everything. I like to be more natural. So I know part of your story. You went to LaGuardia School of Arts. That was your high school. Very prestigious. It basically breeds famous people. And you could probably name drop where I can't, like a lot of names.
Yeah.
But so you went to that school as your high school.
Yep.
And from what I understand is you did very well. What were you studying?
Yep.
And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. It was definitely an interesting experience, going there. Really into music as a kid, performing, writing, playing. I had a lot of options, got into a lot of different schools, but ultimately decided on there because of the name, the brand, the location, right? That's right by the square, Lincoln Square.
It's a big name drop.
Juilliard's 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
Got the Hudson River, again, 2 blocks away. Just a great area, a great performing arts library, all that,
Probably really nice in there too, right?
It was definitely one of the nicer public schools.
Did you like going there?
I did because at the time it was very niche. They really drove in a hardcore academic standard, right? So you had to go to class, you had to do well in class.
You have to get accepted to go there, correct?
You have to audition and take a test, or you had to.
What was your audition?
Trumpet, instrumental music.
I used to play the trumpet, and I was good.
Yeah.
My music teacher wanted me to be in the band. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, that was my thing. Basically, that all started when I was in elementary school, and that was the only sound I could make on any of the instruments. So I said, let's do trumpet.
I think it's easy because there's 3 buttons.
Yeah, well,
it's not that fucking complicated.
A lot of breath control, a lot of finger, a lot
of
blow.
breath control. I got a lot of wind in this little body.
Listen, I got a lot of those innuendo jokes of the fingering and the blowing.
The fingering and the blowing?
Yeah. And
I used to play the skin. No.
Yeah, no.
But so your experience, you did well there, from what I was told.
I did well. Definitely enjoyed my time there. Things started to change a little bit as I was leaving. There was basically what I call a regime change. All of the people who were running and were passionate about not only education but the arts, because you could go there for multiple disciplines. I went there for instrumental because that's where I found myself. But there was dance, acting, vocal work, even stage tech, building sets and working behind the scenes, and then art. Just general art. Drawing, painting, you name it. There was a class system, though, very, very, very much so. If you wanted to go based on who had the most opportunity, who kind of brought the most notoriety to the school, you could think back to acting, right? It gave us Wesley Snipes, Jennifer Aniston, Robert De Niro.
Sucks, right? And here you are, you're just some fucking Queens piece of shit.
Yeah, basically.
And you don't have some famous father. You're just a
not at all. In fact, I had to convince my parents that it was my passion. And, the only way to do that was by, at that age, 13, 14, saying, this is what I want to do.
Did you get support from your parents when you went to the school? Did they get it or they didn't get it?
My father especially, at the time before I even went there, he didn't know it. I mean, you and I definitely, come from similar family upbringings. Father was out of the picture around that time. And, my mother, as much as she wanted to support all of us, she had 3 boys to support. She had me and my brothers, and She really wanted us to keep doing the things that we had done since we were small, and that was baseball, that was, you know, just doing well in school. And so when I finally decided, like, this is what I want to do, it was a bit of a gamble, basically.
It's a gamble. It's a complete fucking gamble.
You know, they didn't really have the money to buy me a new trumpet or send me to lessons or do these things. And so if I wanted to do it, I had to teach myself, or I had to really beg and prove to them, like, this is what I'm passionate about. And so by the time I finally got into that medium, they had us playing 30 or 40-year-old trumpets. I mean, they had these things that they bought back in the 80s and, you know, severely underfunded. And, you know, it's funny because I did enjoy my experience there, but I recently read that the school's going down the tubes. They're neglecting that whole identity. They called it the Fame School. They shot that movie there. I never watched it, but that was the notoriety aspect. That was every kid who had a artistic passion wanted to go there, and not everyone could go there. And so by the time the principal / like main program director left, the people that followed just, you know, decided to kind of put that in the rear view and just, you know, focus on what they want us to, the STEM, the science, the technology, the math. And
the more of the business aspect of it gets, less of the art, more the business. Am I reading this right?
You know, and then the funniest thing is you know, a lot of the students tried to reach out to some of those people. Nicki Minaj went there as well. And, you know, a lot of these people who you would consider successful could care less. They could care less. And you know,
business minded in sense of what? Like the money.
No, yeah.
Kill us about the art. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, all
It's
around.
all business. Everything is fucking money. Money
all around.
money.
And especially in the city or New York State, they care really predominantly about that testing and being able to express yourself, or, you know, vent your anxieties or concerns in any other way other than, you know, what's 6 times 12, or, you know, can you tell me what photosynthesis is? They don't care. They don't care about that. They don't give a shit. And, you know, even just what we're doing today, I think, you know, just having this medium, this environment, you know, is good for both of us.
It's amazing.
I hopefully it's good for everyone that's listening. But yeah, you know, education for sure. I mean, I did enjoy school. I think for me it was more than just, you know, taking that test or reading that book. It was, you know, the people you met, the people you spent time with, you know.
It changes everything.
You know, trying to form your own path, especially when you're out of that environment and they basically say, hey, you know, you're 18 now. You can do what you want. I mean, you know, I had 3 months left when I turned 18. And when I realized that I could just walk out and never come back, I almost did. I spent 4 years there, and I was this close to getting my degree, but I was this close to just leaving and forgetting it.
You did get your degree, though.
I did.
How old are you now? 19?
27.
Oh,
27.
Well, you're not as young as I thought you were.
It's been a decade, and you know, that whole again idea of education and what it could mean really is something that I don't think leaves any of us. I think we're always learning. We're always students of life. So,
a student of life. I think that one of my little victories, I consider more of a big victory. If not, it's one of the biggest. Is that somehow along the lines, as I continue to work on myself into this day, but I did a lot of work on myself because, like, for me, I'm a half street kid, very street savvy. Grew up in the Bronx, selling drugs, you name it. I've done it. I know the street very well. I'm not the best at, like, you know, like there are some kids that are really street smart. And I'm street smart, but there's some kids that are really, because they're raised by, like, gangsters and things like that, and they know the fucking street in and out. So I have my experience in the street, and then I have the other split side of me, the other 50%, that's college educated.
School,
so I lived a very, very, very 50-50 life.
I heard that all the time. It was almost shoved down my throat.
You're either what's crazy?
You know, you're either street smart or book smart.
But I was both.
But you got to be
now,
both. Yeah.
What happened to me is, like, I felt like an outcast around everybody because I'm the guy hanging out with all of the college educated kids and all of the really smart kids that and here I am as the street kid.
Yeah.
And then I'm hanging out in the street, and they're like, "Oh, this is the smart guy. This is the college guy," and everybody would talk shit. So you almost feel uncomfortable because very few people. When I was selling weed in the street, especially many years ago, and I sold a lot of weed. I did well.
How much?
A lot.
A lot.
And I did well, and but during that time I was only making any. And I might go on tangents, but all of this has value. Is it? What's funny too is that during that time, because what happened is everything was shut down at that time during the pandemic, and the only thing I was making was fucking money, and a lot of it. But what happened is at that time, because I'm a creative person, I'm an actor. I've been in independent films, you name it. I've been on set for all Showtime, this, that, the other thing, and that's the love of my life. And the other thing also is my photography. And when I finally went back to school at the age of 30-something, because I said, fuck that, I want to go to school. And I was doing photography. And I was in a photography program, and it changed everything. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I went to Fashion and Technology, and I had the best time of my life. That school is so amazing, I never wanted to go home. If they would have had a cot for me somewhere in a back room, I would have never went home. Mm-hmm. That's how much I love that school. And then, shit hit the fan. They did this premeditated pandemic. And then next thing I know, I'm fucking back in the street selling drugs again. And then here I am doing well. But when that happened is that, I made money, but I worked hard for that money, and I was fucking busy. I mean, when that phone turned on, it was like a real business. The phone went on at a certain time. The phone didn't go off till a certain time. 7 days a week. All I did was fucking go, go, go. I wanted to take that phone and throw it into the Hudson River. Yeah. Because it was a ball and chain. And I couldn't eat, I couldn't shit, I couldn't piss. And it's just a phone going off with people driving you crazy all day long.
And it's not what you want.
It's not what I wanted. And I was becoming, and this is not made up, this is the truth, is I was becoming borderline suicidal. Then I went on a steroid rampage where I'm literally on $10,000 worth of steroids on top of it, so I'm really losing my mind. So I contact our producer, so I like to make fun of, and every episode I will make sure that I make fun of our producer. He's a tall French guy. He looks like a wolf man. And, I'm not going to say this too much, but he's the love of my life. And he's probably one of the most inspiring people I've met in my entire life. He's an independent filmmaker. He's got balls like a rhinoceros. They literally drag as he's walking because he's relentless.
I think so, too.
I think so, too. You think so, too. Yeah. We both know Pierre, Gilliet? How do you say his last name?
Guillet.
I can't say that.
Very French.
Yeah, he's so
From
French.
the Alps.
He's fucking French, this
He's at
kid.
the top of that mountain.
Yeah, the flag is waving. But legitimately, and it's funny, too, was a little background to how I met him many years ago, was I was found trespassing on his parents' property. And then, surely enough, you meet people in strange ways, and now we're basically married to each other, and we became the best of friends. And he was in film, and he was making his own, he was doing music videos, things like that, and now he's got films in distribution, all by himself. He's a one-man show. But his relentlessness, which I have in me too, I'm going to be honest with you, Pat, I don't know if I would have made it this far without him.
Yeah.
Because having him on my side, it's like, you know what, you can do this. You're not, what it is it takes away, when I first decided, it's funny, like we talk about our parents and support, right? My mother would support anything I did. If I fucked up and I got locked up, there was my mother. When I did good things, there was this woman. I don't think I'll ever find someone who ever loved me as much as she's loved me. And I'm dying every day without her in my life. But she was always very supportive. But it's funny that when I left Con Edison, I leave six-figure jobs like it's the thing to do. I must have had 5 of them already.
You've left more jobs than people have ever had.
But not even jobs, careers. Like 6-figure jobs, benefits, you name it. And when I first made that first initial step where I'm like, I think what really got to, I did 8 years with Con Edison, and then I became an operating supervisor in the gas department. I got my master's. I made them pay for it and all this other stuff. And when it wasn't working out, and I was very discouraged, I think about it a lot, I think the thing that really bothered me is the whole system. And the thing that bothers me the most is watching these guys die. In other words, like, one guy's about to go to get his pension, he's about to retire, boom, he drops dead. Next guy drops dead. And I'm sitting there saying, these guys, half of them were good people, some of them were good people, and some of them were miserable pricks. And watching all these guys die, and it's like, and I'm sitting there thinking about life, and I'm
Yeah.
like, why? For what?
Yeah.
I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I have one shot to do this life, and I don't want to fuck this up. I'm not getting a second chance. This is it. This is it.
Yeah.
And when I walked away 8 years later, and I took all the money I saved a lot of money. And I walked out, I parted ways. I had $100,000 I saved, and I said, when I walked out that gate, it was like, this is scary. I was scared shit. And I'm like, okay, well, Richie, I had a conversation myself outside that gate, and I'm like, what do you want to do with your life? And I didn't know. And I said, well, I always wanted to take pictures. And I started that road, and I spent all my money, like, quickly, but I wouldn't go back, right? Like, let's say I never left. I'd easily have $450,000 saved in my 401k.
Yeah.
I would, and right now there's $0 in my bank account. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't go back. I don't care because I have purpose. I have amazing people in my life. I'm living to be honest, my best life right now.
Yeah. Little victories.
Money comes and goes. I've had money, I've lost it. I've had it, I've lost it. So that wasn't the solution. Perfect example. I'm on the street selling weed. I had money. I had fuck you money at that point. And I'm borderline suicidal. So I had to do a lot of self-reflection. And I'm saying, this is not it. This is not it. When I was on the street, and like I was so busy that it was busy beyond busy, I wasn't making anything creative. I went from a photography program to making nothing creatively. And I was losing my fucking mind. I contacted him. I said, shoot a documentary about this. I don't care what it's about. I don't care. Just to know that we're making something is bringing life back into me. And I felt like me again. Mm-hmm. The documentary probably knows it's just about a short Italian guy that doesn't know what he wants. So probably it has no value. But you know what? It brought life into me again.
To you, it did, yeah.
Yeah.
You needed that creative outlet. And, I could definitely identify with that. For me, that was, something I struggled with for a while. The fact that I'm doing this now, I was really interested in the whole broadcasting and production field and really kind of just ripped the Band-Aid. I said, nope, I got to go do something. And I went to this technical school, and it was about a 3-month intensive, and I really enjoyed it. And, could argue that I made connections, but these are people that won't even pick up the phone now.
Yeah, but wait, when did you, because now one reason why you're a guest, and it's relevant to our show, is that when you first graduated, you got your degree from, you graduated from
High school diploma.
High school diploma. And after that, immediately after that, what happened to you?
So graduating with that generic high school diploma, anyone can get one, right? With a music endorsement, that was the only kind of staying power that I guess that had. They told you from day one, freshman year, oh, you're going to have a shot at all these Ivy Leagues and these, top 10 colleges and all these opportunities because you go here. And it was something along like 96% or 97% of people from that school matriculated, went to college right away. I was in the 4% that didn't.
Why?
There were just too many concerns. Definitely at the time, not having that economic ability to do it.
The money.
Definitely did not have the money to do it. And that uncertainty, what I wanted to do in terms of my creative and artistic passions, I knew at the end of the day, this was something that was told to me as a kid, like, hey, doing music is all fine and dandy, but, how are you going to pay your bills?
That's how we're lower middle. Well, I call it subclasses because it's lower, middle, like I guess poverty, lower, middle. I just say no because it's like subclasses. And the class that I feel like I was in, I think that same thing is I consider us lower middle class. In other words, you're middle class to some degree, but if you fuck up, you're on the street.
But I also think your mindset can play into it as well. You can either look at being poor or not as monetarily advanced. I try to make it a little interesting with the wording there. There's a difference between acting poor and being poor. I don't want to get too hypercritical, but you could make it work to a degree if you don't have that money. But if you let that be your defining characteristic and factor, then good luck. Good
You're gonna
luck
be scared.
trying to.
You're gonna be scared
you know,
shit.
yeah.
To do anything, to take any risks.
And so for me, staring down the barrel of 4 years for a communications degree with $80,000 in debt, no, that wasn't going to work. And so the idea of the gap year, right? The idea of taking some time off and trying to figure things out, that's what I did. Were people around me happy about it? Absolutely not.
How much time did you take? Because now another issue that was told is you went back to school recently.
I did. 10 years later. 10
You
years.
went, so you didn't go to college at all.
Nope.
And then 10 years later,
Yep.
which is unheard of because what do we call them pat facts now. We have this little thing where we're going to make you,
Pat facts.
we're grooming you
Yes.
as my Andy Richter. But we call them the pat facts. So you're
Yep.
the fat guy and I'm just the guy with the big mouth.
Yep.
So the pat fact is, what's the percentage? Do we have an actual statistical percentage of
Yeah, well,
how many people go back? Especially 10 years later. That's
Yeah.
a long time.
yeah. So the initial idea of that gap year is to take 1 year. You graduate, and then 365 days from that point, you're back in school. You're in a 4-year college. You are pursuing a degree. 90% of people who take that gap year go back. For me, not going back after that year just kind of, I wouldn't say clarity at the time. I would say I have more clarity now. But at the time, again, I still didn't have that certainty of what I wanted to do. So I didn't go back.
Yeah, but there's anything wrong with that. Originally, I was like thinking you were just being a lump of shit.
Yeah.
And like just not have no ambition.
Yeah.
Me and Pierre would make fun of you, and like,
I know.
what the fuck is he doing? He's
know.
got to get his shit together.
I know.
We would rip into you because
Yeah.
your brother is a master plumber, hustled his ass off, and here you are.
Yeah.
What would you do at home? What were
Yeah.
you like playing video games, watching porn? What were you doing with your time?
No, it honestly, and it's hard to admit, but there was a period of time of just,
No drive.
a lot of no drive, or
Was depression?
again, clear path. I mean, that's a topic for another day, but
Yeah.
but
You just didn't know what you wanted.
I didn't know, and like I had said, I didn't want to spend the money primarily, but also the energy just going to go, and so finally, I made that decision to that trade school, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, pay me for that shout out. I went, and as we do now, sat behind a microphone, learned a little bit about this, learned a little bit about that. And it was one of those things where I said to myself, if I didn't do it, I would always regret it. If I didn't at least try, if I didn't at least expose myself. And, if you want to talk about our producer, being able to help on some of his projects and learn a little bit about that behind the scenes work and things like that, that was a real education to me, for sure, And after that, I went back to whatever day work I could find. Nothing specific. And unfortunately, during the pandemic, the campus closed, and I wasn't able to go back and learn more. They had a lifetime student guarantee, and that really spoke to me. I mean, it wasn't all that expensive. I had worked enough at that point to be able to pay for most of it. I kind of had a heart-to-heart with the director, and he was able to knock a couple bucks off, and that was pretty cool. And
But I want the meat of it. What I'm asking for is this.
yeah,
Thank you for saying what you're saying, but I want the meat of it.
yeah,
Okay? I want to see you naked right now. What I'm basically asking for is this. It's the spirit, right? I want the spirit.
yeah.
Because you give me a lot of technicalities as far as money, things. I get that because we all deal with that shit. What inside of you
Yeah.
was like, Pat, let's get this done? Was it you saying, you dealing with fear? We all deal with fear. But you turn around your fear and say, you know what? I'm not letting you beat me. What was it inside of you? Your spirit that said, I am better than this. Was it something like anything where you just kind of snapped and said, fuck this. I'm going to go after the things that, no matter the difficulties, because let's say you went in debt. Like something changed in you,
Yeah.
especially over the last, I don't have the timeline, but a year or so, whatever it is, where you changed.
Yeah.
You went from being this guy that was almost like, you could tell me I'm wrong, but Pierre might agree with me. Maybe not, I don't know. But in terms of like, you had this way about you of acceptance, where it was like, yeah, shit's fucked up and I'm accepting it. And then all of a sudden, over the last couple of years, you fucking changed.
Yeah.
And what is it? I have this saying where it's like, the most important conversation that we have is the conversation that we have with ourselves.
Yeah.
Is it that?
It wasn't as easy as flipping a switch. You know, it wasn't as easy as saying today I'm doing nothing, tomorrow I'm doing something. But similar to that, you know, I had looked at myself and, you know, accepted that time is gone. I can't go back. I can't change it. But definitely agreeing with, you know, what we said earlier about success being a journey and not a destination. And I said to myself, maybe it was appropriate to take that time and kind of do nothing, just survive, just live. I wasn't thriving. I wasn't excelling. I wasn't pursuing passions or interests. I was just breathing air. I was sleeping, eating,
Existing.
Exactly. And I said, enough of this. You know, this is, that's all fine and well. I mean, you know, there's still people in my corner, but I need to be in my corner. You know, you could have all the confidence in me in the world, but, you know, if I don't have it for me, and I think a lot of people struggle with that. And, you know, once you're able to, like you said, you know, have that conversation with yourself and start to list how you're going to do these things and then actually do them, you know, that's the trick, is just to actually do them. I know a lot of people, and, you know, where I'm at now in my journey, I finally went back to traditional schooling in community college right now. And I think that this is where I need to be right now. I would highly encourage it to anybody who doesn't quite know. Get your feet wet, you know, try, even if it's, you know. And it's funny too, because I went back and to go back to that statistic, the longer you go without going to that formal college educational track, the more decisions you have to make in real life. I mean, you can learn everything in a classroom, but then going and applying it and actually doing it are two different things. And I go back now with the perspective of, I have an idea of what I want to do, but what I don't want to do. And that's almost as important, because what's the goal of college? Get a job or a career.
It doesn't work that way.
And it doesn't work like that at all.
Work that way.
I know plenty of people, even where I'm at now, I'm working full time, that has a degree in journalism, has a degree in psychology, has a degree in cybersecurity, and they're doing, and I'm their supervisor. I'm in charge of them. I'm a team leader, and not to, again, diminish anybody's accomplishments, but for me, why spend that time and energy and money, that 4 years of, you know, staying up late, studying, you know, anxiety ridden, putting yourself in that position of financial insecurity just to work at Stop and Shop, you know?
Want to laugh? I was just promoted recently, and so 90%, if there's a 50-50 shot, I've done it in life. And because I've done so many different jobs. And even my master's from NYU in project management, construction management, I have a very polished, over 15 years, very polished, extremely, the word I'm looking for, qualified person in that industry, in construction management, between the utility business, the laboring union 79, the painting in district council 9, you name it, like, I know construction. And even with this polished resume, education, you name it, I was promoted to a job up here in Westchester County working on a $2 billion project for Regeneron. I started off as an assistant site safety manager through reference. And I started on July 8th. By August 30th, the guy that I reported to, my boss, who was the biggest dick, miserable fuck I have ever met in my life, fired me in a month and a half. Mm-hmm. You know what he did wrong? Absolutely nothing. He probably just looked at me like I'm some Bronx piece of shit and wanted, from the day he came back from vacation, and I went into his office, I said, "Hey, Jim, how's it going? You know, And he immediately started bullying me immediately from that first 5-minute conversation. I already started getting bullied. And he did not want me there. And surely enough, I just put my head down, did what I was told, and he just fucking turned around one day and fired me. And I'm saying, what is this? This is fucking crazy. And I, self-reflection, I'm like, well, why am I doing all this? To education, I'm chasing money, money, money. And I'm sitting there saying that none of this is adding up. I'm not even living a passion. I'm not doing a purpose in my life. I have no all I'm doing is chasing this money, and it's not adding up.
Mm-hmm.
And then in some jobs, so now I've been unemployed since August 30th. I do go back to work next week.
Great.
And when you listen, I'm a guy that cannot sit home. I have to go to work. I'm applying for every job you can name, all day long on LinkedIn, all day long on Indeed, with this very polished resume, getting denied left and right on my emails because whatever. And I'm applying for jobs in the supermarket, Stop and Shop. I'll work. I don't give a fuck. I have to pay bills.
Yeah,
I don't care.
And don't get me wrong. You know, I don't want to diminish anybody's
Absolutely not.
experience and,
No way.
and what they're doing now. I'm just objectively that this has always been my perspective on that whole idea of higher education. You know, I think more people relish the idea of having that piece of paper more so than, you know, actual tangible success. And then, you know, how you define it definitely is different. You know, not to get too introspective, but the idea of fate and a self-fulfilling prophecy, the idea that, you know, everything is already predetermined, and then, you know, just
It doesn't work that way.
gradually acknowledging that.
You know Alan Watts? So I got two people that like, and I'm a straight man, but I would make love to both of them. David Goggins and Alan Watts that's no longer around.
Yeah. Goggins, the
runner.
He was a Marine.
Army Ranger. His story, he's got like 15 million followers. He follows nobody. It's funny how people you never met can change your life.
Absolutely. No, his change is phenomenal. You ever see those before and after pictures? That whole...
It's not even that, but it's a mental thing. He's so intelligent that he says the mind has a tactical advantage. He says word for word, he says in a video that I listened to 80,000 times, that the mind has a tactical advantage over you. It knows your fears. It knows where you don't want to go.
So that's what I was trying to allude to. Like, it's all there. You know, like whatever you're doing today can change tomorrow, but I think overall you have an idea of what you want and when you want it, and then it's just a matter of execution.
You gotta do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other aspect of education, I think, and you know, learning from everyday situations. I mean, as much as you can learn in a classroom, you can learn on the job. And so my thing was, you know, get an entry level position in whatever
And learn it and respect it and be grateful.
Yeah, exactly. And there you go. And your journey can write itself.
Did you ever take acid?
Twice.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
Fucking great.
I don't think I'll touch it again, but
I would take it now if I could. But you know, it really opens up that eye where you could really see the natural world and what's really going on. Greatest, most important experience of my entire life, which I would, I can't. I never took it. With me as a kid, it was always dirty drugs. It was always dirty drugs, sex, drugs, and then when, you know, things changed, I got a little bit older. Big Alan Watts, because he has lectures on psychedelics. And I said, I want to give this a try. Because I was asking the universe questions I had. Because when I talk to God, he never answers me.
Oh, no.
So, no,
yeah,
he leaves me. He's like, I'm busy, leave me alone, kid.
He's worse than the girl that goes to you.
Forget it. So I get acid. It's in my freezer. And I have a strange story about it, but I'm not going to tell the whole story. But essentially, what it did was it opened up my eye and see the natural world. And what it did for me is it took all of my anxiety and threw it out the window. I saw things for what they really were. To me, God is life. Every living organism on this planet is God.
Yeah.
Right? So when Alan Watts is saying you are the universe experiencing itself, I fucking get it. it's hard to digest it when it's so these concepts are very hard to digest. But the second that
Once it clicks.
you see it and it's like, oh shit, I can see. It's like fucking amazing. And it really, really, really changed my life for the better. Everybody should take it, but under the right circumstances. And I don't even know why I'm saying that, but you know, like the purpose, things like that, education, all of it matters. Like I would go back to school right now and go back into a photography program because I just enjoyed the experience. It made me grow as a photographer. It made me a professional photographer. And like if I had children, they would go to school too. But they have the option if they want to get homeschooled or not. But it's about learning. It's about growing. It's not about the educational system because it could be biased. It's a lot of these things are political and they're still trying to make money. But I just like, it's not about the actual degrees. The piece of paper, you could fucking wipe your ass with the piece of paper. It means nothing. It's about you growing and learning and the people you're around because you're around some really amazing people that like to grow. They like to learn. The piece of paper. I got 3 pieces of paper, these 3 college degrees. What kills me is that I'm being denied from jobs where I'm overqualified.
Overqualified, yeah.
What does that even fucking mean? Overqualified?
It means that they're insecure and they think that
I'm going to go make changes?
right. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, and that's why I like the position I'm in at work where I have the opportunity to give people a chance. And because there's some people who, again, you know, they don't want to be there, but they need the money, you know, I can respect that, you know, you need to feed yourself and maybe even feed your kids and pay your rent. And so, you know, I like being able to, I value being a team player, being a team leader, trying to, you know, help people because I know I had my struggles.
So now you're in management now.
Yeah.
And so now how's your support team in management? Is it a good crew? Is it, or do you have to all be robots where it's like, no, you follow all guidelines?
Yeah, no.
It's a 50-50 thing? What is it like?
Yeah. I try to be as free footing as possible. I try to give people leeway. I know the policies, I know the procedures, but I try to give people some space to breathe, you know. I don't plan on anyone from there hearing this, but yeah, no, if I can make someone's day easier by not being an overzealous dick, then I'll do that, you know, even if that...
Because you're a good guy.
Yeah, I think so.
I do like being a dick. I am a dick. And the truth is, I'm actually a very vulnerable, very loving, empathetic person. I just have this layer where I just, you know what it is? I think it's funny. That's why I like being like this. But the real heart of me is like, I'm a bit basically about as soft as baby shit. Like I'm on the inside, like I don't leave the fucking house. I like animals, right? Me and my mother always would feed the birds and shit. During the pandemic, I was feeding squirrels. Now it became like I became the Bronx Snow White. I feed every fucking squirrel on my block. I can't leave my house without feeding all the fucking squirrels. They surround my house. Just the kind of person that I am. Well, the problem I had with the corporate environment kind of sucked. I mean, the biggest of all the dicks that are out there really sucked. Because in management, when I got promoted to management, it's like a whole brainwashing thing. It's like take the pension away. It's not sustainable.
Yeah,
it's like,
trim it for them, but not for us.
The corporate term I learned many years ago from them is we're trying to trim the fat. Trim the fat. Everything is about...
What the hell does that even mean? Yeah.
Yeah, what does it even mean? Like, these people out there breaking their ass all day long. It's 110 fucking degrees outside. These guys are fucking digging holes.
Yeah.
You know, like, have some fucking respect.
Digging in the street. And,
you know, and when I got demoted, this fucking guy had the balls to actually write that in the demotion statement. It said, he's too much of a union guy. What the fuck does it even mean? What does that mean?
Right.
Why? Because I'm supportive to the work, to the guys that are out there doing the work for us. Yeah. And it's like not allowed. You have to be a bully and be an asshole to these people. It's not who I am, right? And have there been financial difficulties since then? Of course. But at the end of the day, I'm not going back on, you know, it's funny too with my acting. So, in my acting, I have a coach. I would like to give him a shout out. His name is Joseph Reitman. I love this man to death. I have other acting coaches, and I've been around with the acting game for a while now. But my coach is Joseph Reitman. He is my guy. He was mentored by Jerry Cohen, who was the director of Married with Children, George Lopez show, all these other things. And these people are masters at that art. And I mean masters. Very grateful to have found him in my life. And what was the point of that? What were you saying before that I just said about
I don't know. I'm just trying to help you tie
yes,
this all
right,
together.
so now I remember. It's like, and in his class each month, it's a class each month. And anyone who's interested in signing up, you think that that's something you want to do, you maybe contact Little Victories, and I'll give you that information. Because I swear by him, it's the best. And so I read for a guy, Bruce Marshall Romans. Bruce Marshall Romans is a producer of the show The Punisher, the film The Messiah, etc. And nicest guy in the world. I read for, and I impressed this guy. He was like, when the screams went on, because we're doing it via Zoom, he was looking at me like very impressed, and with a smile on his face. And because I read a scene for him, and he said, smiling, and he goes, "Do you know who you remind me of?" And I said, "Yeah, look at my face, Johnny Depp. I'm like a doppelganger." And he laughed, and he said, "No." He said, "Harvey Keitel." I said, "Harvey Keitel?" I said, "Yeah." And I'm like, that is the biggest compliment I've ever received.
There you go.
I am...
And where were you formally trained to be an actor?
Okay, so I'll keep this brief, but this also goes back to our Little Victories thing. I didn't have the courage as a kid. I was extremely fucking insecure at the age of 18, 19 years old. I mean, insecure. My whole life revolved around what other people thought of me. You know, when I was a kid, right? I was studying acting in Lehman College, and I had some really solid teachers.
There you go.
Pat, I fucked up. I walked away from it because I remember, you know, it's funny too, because I had an epiphany. I remembered exactly the scene that I did, which I changed my mind. It was an improv scene. It's me and a bigger guy. And I forgot, I was like a bad student, and he was the teacher, and I was giving him a hard time. And then out of nowhere, I cracked, and I became vulnerable. And the teacher said that was amazing. But my character became, naturally in that improv scene, vulnerable. And I folded under the pressure instead of trying to be this tough student. And I just folded. And I became vulnerable. And the teacher fell in love with it. But me at 19 years old, I was like, I don't want my friends to see this. And I fucking walked away. I walked away from acting for years because of that. I didn't want my friends on the street, all my tough friends, to see me being vulnerable. I fucked up. You know, it took me a long time to become who I am now, but it's a lot of self-work. My friend Mike Cuomo, who's a brilliant artist, one of the best artists I've ever met in my life, he, he's also another very, very inspiring person in my life. And he, I can't say enough about Mike. Again, I forget because I go on tangents.
Right. But I would just say I think that's another little victory.
Yeah,
right?
these are all little victories.
Circling back to the times where we were actually doing what we wanted and needed for ourselves and realizing, like, I can still do that.
You know, it's funny. We're saying the same thing here. When you said that's time I needed, Mike has this statement. That's why I referenced Mike, is because he's like legitimately fucking Jesus. And he's like, everything is in divine time. What is meant for you will not pass you, but everything is in divine time.
Yeah.
It wasn't my time.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like, you give me a role, I put work in, and I crush that role. But I don't know if we have much time left. I think we're done. We're done here.
I think we're getting there.
We're getting there. So listen.
But before we wrap up, you know, thank you for having me. You know, I think this is a little victory for me as well.
Listen, you inspired a lot of people by your story, and we'll have you on again without a shadow of a doubt.
Looking forward to it.
I can't thank you enough. This was a lot of value. I love you to death, you know that. And I look forward to the next episode. Maybe we groom you as the Andy Richter.
We'll see.
You know, and I'll be the very, very short Italian Conan O'Brien.
Thank you, brother.
I love you to death. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys got some knowledge from it. There'll be another one again, so don't worry. We have a lot more episodes coming up, a lot of amazing guests, so stay tuned. And for now, this is Little Victories. Ciao. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to Little Victories. Stay tuned for more wins and more laughs. Follow us at Little Victories Pod on Instagram so you don't miss a thing.